Welcome to Synced on Air. I'm your host, Angelique Robb, and today I have a new friend, a new guest here, Cydian Kauffman from Pure Water Northwest. Cydian, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on.
Well, great, and this topic of water and treatment of water, really so much of um, what we need and what our plants need is water. And, I see it wasted very regularly. And I also feel like, the landscape business owners that are listening to this podcast probably see it too. And, you know, we need to know more about how we can, you know, have better water or understand everything going on in the system. So tell us a little bit about Pure Water Northwest, please.
Oh, well, that's just a company that I own. It's there's nothing really special about it. It's doing water treatment. I guess something a little unique about it is we really try to stick to water science and customize our treatment solutions because, well, really, it's because of waste. I mean, there is if you do one size fits all solutions, there are losses at the edges of all those treatment systems, and there's inefficiencies. And that causes the systems to degrade faster, which forces media replacement sooner. It causes failure at points where people are expecting clean water and then they sometimes get breakthrough dirty water or even harmful water. And the efficiencies of the cleaning are not quite as strong. So then you get problems with inefficient waste from the treatment system. So by dialing it in and customizing almost all of our solutions, we are lessening that. So that makes us a little unique, I guess. But otherwise, it's just a water treatment company for people's homes and business.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, one of the things that we were talking about ahead of time is, the difference between bottled water and tap water. And, I moved to Louisiana. I was in Scotland for 20 years and it was the cleanest water out the tap. And, I still do drink tap water here and not buy bottled water, but I am curious what you have to say about the differences.
Well, the differences are pretty extreme, actually. Uh, it's interesting. In Scotland, it may not even be as bad as it is in the US. The reason that the US has such a major problem with many things food related, but bottled water is definitely a big part of that, is the sheer size of the United States is just mind-boggling for most people. Like understanding that many countries are smaller than one of our
One
states.
state, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, yeah, and why that matters is because you've got a company in New York that's selling and bottling water, and it's shipping to Seattle, and that means it's having to survive shaking and thermal expansion the entire way. So an NIH study recently found that I can't remember the number, something like 20,000 particles of microplastic per liter of water.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge. It's an enormous amount of microplastics. So you're getting microplastics in most drinking water sources these days, but bottled water would be the way you get them the most. And all that they're putting water in the bottle. The water is frequently just tap water that they're filtering through simple filters, not even full reverse osmosis, because that can, without realkalization, without balancing the water back after that, it can even suck out more of the plastic into the water. So it just becomes this balance problem that costs money to make the water really, really, really good. And so, yeah, most bottled water, nearly every bottled water is worse for you than most tap water.
Wow. And so you can say that across the US.
Yep, I can say it across the US for sure. As far as other countries go, there's still going to be some microplastics. It probably won't be as bad. The transport time is going to be shorter. But a lot of those countries are getting those bottles shipped in by plane or boat from other countries, in which case it can be worse.
Okay.
So it be, it can be worse in some of those places. It really depends, and evaluating that does require a lot of expertise.
And so, I think one of the other things, so why aren't why isn't there more information out there on what, you know, drinking out of plastic bottles and water? I see people all the time with crates and crates of bottled water. I mean, it's even on the back of their cars when they're going on vacation. Um, why aren't why isn't there more information out there? Or do you think
Well,
it's
now you're kind of asking me to be a psychologist. I mean, I and I have an opinion on it. Um,
Let's go with the opinion. You don't have to be a
okay.
psychologist today.
I mean, late stage capitalism is going to encourage the ignorance of bad news and the proffering of good news. So that's one thing. Um, there's going to be data limitations there, like, and I mean access to data, limitations on access to data there. The data is out
Okay.
there if people want to find it, which then leads to the next part of the equation, in my opinion, which is that it's the ostrich effect. People do not
Mhm.
want to look at water. It's not that they don't, that people love water. Like, it is the topic. I'm asked to be on podcasts constantly because people love hearing about and talking about water. But what they don't want to hear about is bad news. So they'll hear about water in the abstract. They will go on influencer podcasts and listen for hours about water this and water that, and structured water and ozonated water and alkaline water and all that stuff. And they won't go look at the water at their own tap and test the water at their own tap and try and find out if that water is good. And they won't go to the websites that have data about the various bottled water they're drinking and determine whether that's safe. And that's really just the ostrich effect. So the data is not put in front of them, and to find the data, they would have to go look.
You'd have to do some work.
Data's there.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought that, tap water is better for you, but I can't remember how, I got to that. And, there's minerals that you get from tap water that maybe you don't get from bottled water. But I think, what you're saying is really interesting. We're now finding microplastics everywhere in people's bodies. And, you know, now that we know this, we need to dig deeper and know what, now I think of my kids like, okay, I need to pay attention to this. I need to limit their exposure. It's great to know that, know the facts and where we can prevent this from happening. Um, I've often said when I talk about stormwater management and conserving water, being smart with irrigation in our industry, I've I've often said water is the new oil, and you mentioned that earlier, and I thought, oh, I want to hear your take on it from your viewpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there are parallels, right? We've got um, we've got a precious resource
Mhm.
um, it's undeniable that water is far more precious than oil. I mean, we die without it in 3 days. But oil is, one of the most valuable resources on the planet. So the comparison's a pretty easy one to make. I mean, and then it's, it's got very few, ironically, they both have very few, they have very few legal
Alternatives.
oversights, I
Oh,
guess.
legal. Okay. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, they do. They're hard to ship over long distances. Pipes are created just for their transfer. I
okay.
mean, it's true.
Yeah,
I mean, there are water rights and there are oil rights. It is definitely a thing. The difference is, though, water is fairly ubiquitous still.
it is.
Treatment only about, I can't remember the exact number, but only about 0.03 or 0.03% of the water in the world is actually drinkable. Um, the
Oof,
majority, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
that's crazy.
The majority of water on the planet is not drinkable, but water treatment technology makes all of that water drinkable. So even though fresh water, drinkable water, is getting scarcer and scarcer, there is still, even at 0.3 or 0.03%, there's still a ton of water for people that is clean enough. And then any water that's on the border needs more cleaning. The technology is cheaper and cheaper.
Okay.
And the water that's really, really bad can all be turned into drinkable water. We're at a point in water treatment technology where we can turn swamp water into drinking water. We can turn sewer water into drinking water. Like, we can convert it at this point. So that technology is there.
Well, that's great news for Louisiana and our swamps. But we
Yeah,
don't want to, drain all the swamps either.
no kidding. And cost is a factor too. So yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. What I mean is I assume there's many variances in quality of water depending on how you treat it. Um and I guess, again I'm thinking of landscapes, we need irrigation, we need, our the plants that we're dealing with. How do we learn enough, I mean, like let's say it's irrigation water. We maybe want to reuse water, um, and or recycle water. Like, how do we know it's clean enough, or there are certain contaminants that we need to test for?
Um, that's the only way to know is by testing. I mean, you can you can look at a glass of perfectly clear, perfectly smelling water, and it's filled with zero point 0.1 parts per million of arsenic, or even more. I mean, it could have a ton of arsenic in it. You can take a full dropper full of arsenic, put it in water, and it'll look like water. Um, that'll kill you that day. Um, and there's arsenic everywhere. The Department of Ecology map on arsenic would blow people's mind. Arsenic's on the periodic table of elements, and it's going to be in every single not every single, nearly every single water source.
Hmm.
But luckily, there is some removal attempts. The maximum contaminant level in the United States for arsenic is 0.01 parts per million. The health limit is 0. So some arsenic is just allowed in your water, and
Hmm.
you're drinking it in many places. Um, Pretty easy to get out if the water is chlorinated. If it's not chlorinated, it can be a little harder to get out. But I guess the bottom line to answer your question is you can't know what's in your water without testing or looking up
Hmm.
test results. There are a lot of places that will do testing on your water already, or have already done it if you're on a municipal source. And if you're on a private well, I
You have
recommend
to
you
do
do a
it
50
yourself.
to 100 panel test no matter what, at least once
Mm.
in the lifetime of owning your well. You can have uranium in that water, you can have chromium 6, you could have, your water could be flammable and you don't even know it. It is absolutely true that well water can have absolutely anything in it, and you won't know without testing.
Wow. And so even yeah, I know I'm like kind of shocked. And so, maybe the mentality, hearing that, you
Mhm.
could some people could go, well, I'm only going to bottled water because maybe it's safer. But you you
No,
don't know
no,
that either.
yeah, bottled water is not necessarily safer. So bottled water is one of the least regulated industries there are. Um,
Wow.
it's incredibly unregulated, and there have absolutely been. We've done a lot of testing, our own personal testing on bottled waters. Very frequently, they are worse than your tap water.
Wow.
So the fact that I said anything can be in your water, let's ameliorate that a little bit and say that even though anything can be in your water at the start, if you're on a municipal system, they have to be under certain guidelines.
Yes.
And those guidelines are maybe not strict enough, but they're as strict as they can be, taking costs into consideration. I mean, that's actually a literal, I guess technically I'm literally quoting the EPA website when I say that. They say that they're trying to get the water as clean as they can while taking costs and other factors into consideration. And
Okay.
the reason that is because trying to treat water takes a footprint of real estate. And if you
Hmm.
want the water to be 10 times cleaner, you may, depending on what's in the water, have to 10x, 10 times the size of the footprint of the treatment facility, which is not going to happen,
And operating costs, and
which
yeah.
then would be the
Yeah.
cost you pay to the utility
Yeah.
company. So it ends up being cheaper for individual households to get a $5,000 treatment system in their home for their whole house, or even just $1,000 under counter drinking water system.
Okay.
If you want to talk about the way that's easiest for most people to just get the cleanest water, it isn't bottled water. It isn't trusting tap water. It's just getting a reverse osmosis in your sink and
Hmm.
not really worrying about the minerals you get from water, getting your minerals from food,
Mm. Okay.
which frankly is at least 50 times more than water anyhow. You The majority of where you get your minerals by measurement is from food, not from
Okay.
water.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, great. I think, it really helps to have some of these discussions when, like I said, you see people buying crates of bottled water everywhere you go. I see them down the highway on the back of their cars.
Yeah.
um, it's also creating a lot more waste and plastic. And not only can you be ingesting more plastic through the bottles, but then it's, something else that has to be dealt with afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, So, so it sounds like there are so many technologies out there to treat the water in different situations, but there's a cost to it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it. I mean, we've got groundwater depletion over the last 30 years. I mean, I think the number is aquifer depletion has dropped by about 1,000 kilometers cubed over the last 30 years, um,
okay.
which is a lot. It's a lot. And so what that's doing though is it's creating less diluted water, which means the water you're pulling out of the ground has more contaminants per cubic liter than it did before. Um,
Okay.
and then contaminants are being added. Over the last 30 years, we've added pharmaceuticals, microplastics, forever chemicals. And those are found in nearly every water source. So the mixture of freshwater depletion and the addition of the multiplication factor of man-made toxins have made our water definitely very different than it was 30 years ago. So doing in-home treatment is definitely something that I would recommend to nearly everyone. Some people have perfect water out of their tap, but nearly everyone needs some form of treatment at this point, just per the data we have.
Well, I think that's, yeah, great to hear. It's a practical way forward, isn't it? Like, like you said, the under sink um, filtration that you can add fairly low cost, and then you run less risk of, I have young kids. I want to make sure that we're not, creating a problem later in life for them.
Totally. Yeah.
What about, you know, capturing water, gray water, and using it, on sites? Do you see that happening more in the States, um, or do you see that everyone realizes that there's a problem with this and the contaminants? I mean, you know, I guess I'm in South Louisiana, and when I found out that as much as it rains here, we still have, a depleting freshwater aquifer, record depletion, and it's not filtering through the soil and getting there to recharge it. That really freaked me out a little bit because we get a lot of rain, and and then I see the way we've well, whether it's designed this way or whether it was built this way, but I see a lot of the driveways and the hardscaping um, divert water into the roads where it, you know, obviously there's a choke point at the drain, and then it goes out to the rivers and maybe swamps. And um, I feel like we've exacerbated the issue through construction. So not only are we cementing up, or maybe it's not cement, but we're building more houses, we're overdeveloping, we have less soil to filter the rainwater, um, but also the water that we do get is we're shooting it off instead of the plants that need it, and then we need to irrigate. So it's like this double whammy that we're depleting our reserves by watering the plants that don't get the rainwater that they should get. And we can do something about that. um, and so I feel like sometimes I want to just shout it at the top of the rooftops, like, everybody's water is going in the wrong direction. Like, we need to keep our water on site and use it to water our plants. I mean, but I also, when I lived in Scotland, built our own house, and we were going to have a a ground. We're going to capture all the water and reuse it in the house, but of course, budgets get cut as you have problems, and that was one of the things that got cut. But we were like, but we have lots of water. We can, in those places that you have lots of water, you don't think about doing these. It's one of the last things that you do.
Yeah.
So I guess my question, long story, is how do we change the perception of what water, um, and how to manage it better? And I know that's like, if you could figure that out.
You're
but
asking me to be a psychologist again.
What's your opinion?
Yeah, my
What's
opinion.
your opinion?
All right. So my opinion on this is that cool technology will make the cost and accessibility, the mental accessibility, the emotional accessibility easier and easier. Technology like there's a new type of concrete or pavement that passes water through it nearly instantaneously. That technology, used the right way, will be so interesting and fun as soon as it's economically more affordable. It'll just be adopted. So
Mhm.
we'll get people suddenly at that point saying, look how good for the environment this is. And people will start saying what you've just said suddenly, where they wouldn't say it before. Suddenly they'll start saying, yeah, and it allows us to keep our water in our aquifers rather than being diverted to streams. They'll say
Mhm.
stuff like that then when there's a solution, right? So it's as far as what we do about it now, I mean, podcasts like this are all I can think of. I mean, like
Yeah.
we've got,
I
we've got,
appreciate you, yeah,
yeah,
brainstorming with me.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's future technologies that are going to be really fun, but for what we do now with the technology we have now, the accessibility to the technology we have now, all we can do is cope, I guess, for lack of a better word.
And discuss it, I think,
Yeah,
yeah.
and discuss it.
And, it's comforting to me to know that, you know, the treatment that you all the water treatments that you know about, the processes that um, we can do a lot with what we have.
Yeah,
Um, there's always going to be a cost issue because then you're handling it, you're doing something about it, um, and to know how to warn people today that you know bottled water is you know isn't as safe as you think it is, and you know, use that to guide you.
yeah, I agree.
Mm.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. Um, I think that yeah, it's just an interesting tie-in. It's so related to our industry, but it's also related to human health and plant health and everything that's living in this world.
yep.
So you've already given us some advice for homeowners. Um, if you're in, government and you have some say in how things go in the future, is there something that you can recommend the municipalities to find out more about for the future of their, the infrastructure, doing things, you know, with respect to water treatment that are better for their citizens?
Yeah. I mean, if I had the ear of somebody in government, I would tell them three things. I would tell them get experts to help you when you have water crises. If I had been consulted, or any number of my colleagues, it's not that I'm special. There are a lot smarter water nerds out there than me. If any of them had been consulted during the Flint crisis, for example, we would have got them like a $500,000 overseas fabricated reverse osmosis systems. They would have been able to get that would have gotten them about 30,000 ROs, which is the number of homes that were involved in that. And then they would have been able to get those installed themselves, or they would have been able to use local plumbing companies who were given coupons from the government to get reimbursed. It would have probably cost them $1 million total, all in. And every single one of those homes would have had safe drinking water within 4 or 5 months. Um, and that would have bought them a lot of time. So the first thing I'll say is get an expert involved when you have a water crisis.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I'd say is I would be testing for more contaminants. They are what I see happening is they have a list of contaminants they do test for, and then they realize the Pandora's box that's involved in starting to test for other things. And I'm worried that the government itself is having the same kind of ostrich effect, where they don't want to look at what's in the water. So that would be my second bit of advice. And lastly, I would absolutely be there are government subsidies for research into new technologies, but in the
Mhm.
water treatment area, they are funded much less than other areas. And I would increase the funding on um, innovations for water treatment technologies. Those are the three things that would make a huge difference, I think.
Hmm. I think that's great. And, some of our audience are involved in discussions with community planning, housing developments, and getting involved with, the municipalities. So I think that that's a good hit list to start with.
Yeah,
And I'm sure they can contact you for more information. Do you want to give your
sure.
details on
I
how to
mean,
reach you?
my name's so unique, it's really easy to find me. You just look me up, and I think my cell phone number might be out there, which is kind of scary. But the um, yeah, that's my company's name is Pure Water Northwest, so you can find me that way too. I I don't really do this to plug my company, but I appreciate it. But yeah, if anyone wants to find me, that'd be how.
Great. And we'll put details in the show notes.
Okay.
So I think it's great that you're offering to help and be a resource, because
Yeah.
sometimes, I mean, just like what you're saying about the ostrich effect, if it's hard to find somebody to help, you have to go do too much research to figure out who to call.
Right.
Um, you're offering to help people, and you know, we have an issue here in the States, and water is important for our industry to help with. So
Yeah.
I think that's a great connection to, landscape architects out there, civil engineers, anybody want to call Cydian, he is ready.
I am ready.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to keeping in touch, Cydian.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Talk to you soon.